Hey guys, so today I had the pleasure of doing a Google Hangout with two women who have PCOS and use the ketogenic diet as a way to combat some of the symptoms that go along with PCOS. They've also been losing weight and have a lot of great recommendations and tips for you guys. So if you don't know about PCOS, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it affects 1 in 10 women and approximately 5 million women in the US alone. So let's get to today's video. And we're going to go ahead and talk today about PCOS and the ketogenic diet. And so let's get into the stories behind both of these lovely ladies. Denisse, let's go ahead and start with you.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Denisse. I'm from Massachusetts. I was diagnosed with PCOS 20 years ago. I started the ketogenic diet only 5 months ago. I've probably been the most successful in weight loss ever on this diet. And it's actually helping me a lot with my symptoms as well. I've tried every diet under the sun. I've lost weight. I haven't been happy with how the weight is lost. I gain it all right back. And this time I'm taking more initiative into how I actually follow through with it.
Okay, great. And Carisa, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? And Carisa also has a YouTube channel, so make sure you tell them about that.
Hi guys, my name's Carisa. I just turned 33 and I live in New York. I had a little bit of a difficult time finding out not only that I had PCOS, but the best way to eat to deal with it. I went into my mid-20s and I was gaining weight and having a lot of trouble losing it. And I was noticing all these other issues that I had with my body, but none of the doctors that I saw wanted to help me. They just said, well, you just need to lose some weight. A friend of mine was diagnosed with PCOS, and she didn't have any of the symptoms. So she told me about it. She was frustrated and didn't think that it was a real diagnosis. And I had every single symptom on the list. So I took that information to even more doctors, and it took almost 3 years for someone to finally look at me and say, yeah, I think you're right. And that was at a fertility clinic. So I all that time was eating pretty much most of the time vegan food. I tried to stay as close to raw and unprocessed as I could, but there were times when I would just have whatever as long as it fell under the category of being vegan because I thought that was the best thing for me. And I just kept getting bigger and bigger. I discovered keto a couple of years ago, actually, now, and I was scared of it. I just started it last August, and I have lost a little over 40 pounds at this point. And I've documented some of that on YouTube. I do have a YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/CarisaDoll, and that's CarisaDoll. And it's been in an effort to help other women like myself who have had trouble losing weight because of insulin resistance, because they have issues with losing weight, not only endocrine disorders or anything that could cause them to have infertility, and get the word out there because I was working against my own biology for years, and it's really sad that I think that's what happens to a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that we really wanted to cover in this is a lot of people go undiagnosed. A lot of people have all these symptoms, and sometimes the doctors kind of skirt away with, giving them diagnoses, and people are doing their own research and trying to find out exactly what's going on. So let's just get down to like the basics. Denisse, do you want to go into what PCOS is?
Sure. It's a hormonal endocrine disorder. What I learned at a symposium I went to in Philadelphia is that they want to change the name of PCOS, and they want to change it so that it mentions metabolic disorder. So with all the years of misdiagnosing women or, really not knowing what to look for, now they have a little bit more of a clear understanding, and this is why for me, diet is probably the most important factor, because if they want to change the name to something of a metabolic disorder and a hormonal disorder as opposed to endocrine, then I think that we really have to focus on how.
Right. So let's talk about why keto is helpful for people with PCOS, and either one of you can answer this. You know, I just maybe get into like a little bit about the insulin.
I can say what I know, and then if she wants to jump in and say something else.
Okay. Perfect.
I wrote down 5 things. The low carbohydrates obviously will help with the insulin resistance. The weight loss, because the insulin resistance is pretty much restored, you will lose weight faster. The weight loss actually helps with fertility at this point. It lowers your testosterone levels by large numbers. It improves the LH-FSH ratio, which is the luteinizing hormone and the follicle stimulating hormone.
Mm-hmm.
And that, again, because of the hirsutism, is a big deal to me as well. So all these things are all symptoms that women with PCOS have, and just by changing our diet, it actually improves every single one of them.
Absolutely. I think that from what I've learned, not every woman with PCOS has the same issues. There, for example, are a lot of women who find out because of cysts on their ovaries when they're young. I personally don't have cysts. That's one of the only parts of PCOS that I'm not personally affected by. But you will also see really thin women who have PCOS, and you'll wonder, well, why does she have it and she's thin? And it's usually because they are not affected by insulin issues, or they've figured out the best way to eat, which is on a low carbohydrate, low sugar diet. So it's a journey for everyone to find out how they're affected by that. But I think that the women who do have insulin resistance are affected by not only the insulin resistance itself, but the inflammation that's caused as a result. Just for example, when I first started keto, it was less than a week in, and I could see my knuckles really defined on my hands, and I could see the bones in my wrist for the first time in years. And it was a little bit scary, but it was awesome, because that showed me that I was really working against the inflammation in my body, and if it was happening on my hands, it was definitely happening around my organs too.
Heck yeah.
Can I just say something, because she said that? I was looking at my hand yesterday, and I saw my veins, and I'm like, oh my God, I can see my veins in my hands, and my friend's like, that's kind of normal. I'm like, not for me, it's not, because I really never, you can't see them when you're overweight. Your hands are big, and I was excited because I saw my veins.
Yeah, for sure. So I know when I did ask my friend some things about that she wanted to ask you guys about, we talked about the symptoms that affect people who have PCOS, and like Carisa said, not one thing affects everyone. And I think that's why some people get misdiagnosed, because the medical community kind of likes to put people in these like cookie cutter things of like, okay, well, if not A, B, and C, then you don't have this, and that's really not the case. And I think the medical community is expanding beyond that now, which is really great. Like Carisa said, in ultrasound, we look for the ring of pearls, which is, you know, usually you see the cyst kind of carrying around the outside of the ovary. But Denisse and I were talking earlier about sometimes they get mixed up with follicles, and you don't know exactly if you're being misdiagnosed with that. And again, it's not something that you have to be diagnosed with PCOS. So back to like the symptoms that some people have either one of you guys noticed symptoms like acne or skin discoloration or like the hair and weight loss? What have you guys noticed between, you know, starting ketogenic diet and those symptoms?
Well,
or whoever wants to go first.
Yeah. So I had, I've always had a skin discoloration around my neck.
Seems to be the common area.
And it's pretty much gone. Like, I don't really have anything that's noticeable anymore. The hirsutism, I really believe that the internal everything in my body, I just feel like I've damaged it so much. The hirsutism, I still have to shave every day. It grows in maybe a little bit smoother. It grows in a little bit less frequent, or like, you know, as opposed to 2 o'clock, it might start going back in at 5 type thing.
Okay.
But I've noticed that's a big difference, because to me, anything fixing this for me is a big deal.
Right.
As far as the weight loss, I actually took a picture of myself in 2011 when I weighed exactly the same that I do right now. And the difference in weight loss today is that I've been able to lose my weight in the stomach. And before, I lost a lot of weight. I was looking really good and fit, and my stomach was just there.
Yeah.
And this time, when I did a comparison, it was a complete change. Like, most of the weight that I'm losing now is in my stomach, and I know it's because the insulin resistance is improving in my body. So that actually helps in the stomach area.
Yeah. How about you, Carisa?
I've seen the same thing. The majority of my weight has always been in my torso, specifically in my stomach. And I know that that is one of the first signs that you do have an insulin resistance issue. But I fought against that for so many years because I just thought, oh, that's just where I'm big. That's just, that's just what I have to deal with.
Right.
But a couple of the other things that I also have hirsutism, but mine I would say mine's been reduced since I started keto by almost 50%. My trouble area definitely is my chin, but I don't need to maintain it nearly as much, and it's not as intense, I guess. It's not. It used to really feel like broom bristles coming out of my face, and it's not as bad anymore. So I also did have darkening of the skin on the back of my neck, and where I didn't realize it had happened was on my knuckles until it was gone. I just thought I had ugly hands, but my knuckles used to be a lot darker than the rest of my hands.
Yeah.
And someone had mentioned at some point, either on like a keto forum or something, that their discoloration was on their thighs and their knuckles. And when I realized that, I thought, that's pretty magical, because there were things about my body that I just thought, this is how I am now.
Right.
Another thing that was a side effect of PCOS, which was probably the most embarrassing for me, was skin tags. And I had probably dozens of them on both sides of my neck. So with the darkening of the skin and the skin tags on top of it, it was really embarrassing to wear my hair up, and I could tell people were always looking at it.
Yeah.
Since I started keto, they're still there, but there's a lot fewer of them, and I don't think I've gotten new ones. I think they're just slowly going away on their own because it's kind of painful to remove them. But that's something that I've been really happy with, because it's one of those things that's harmless for it to be happening on my body, but it's a sign that something's wrong internally. So it's nice to not be wearing that out for everyone to see.
Yeah. I think it's amazing how much our bodies tell us, with different symptoms. It's almost like little cries for help in certain ways, to be like, hey, pay attention, there's something going on here. So I think that's a really cool feature of our bodies, even though it's kind of something that we don't like to have, it's definitely a sign of things going on. So that's really cool that you guys have noticed some improvements. Let's get into talking about fertility. I know a lot of people switch to doing keto, and even a lot of doctors recommend to go to keto for fertility and things like that. Let's go ahead and talk to Carisa first, and then we'll move to you, Denisse. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I think that for a lot of women, that may be how they discover they have PCOS, if they haven't found out already. And for me personally, once I started trying to learn more about the process and how I could improve my fertility, I found some really shocking things out about the way that my doctors were looking at diet and what they considered effective. Basically, when I've been married for 10 years this September, I've never had a natural pregnancy or a surprise pregnancy, and I went to a fertility clinic that did not require a specific BMI. Most will, because it affects the overall success of the treatment, and they want their national numbers to look good against other places.
Right.
So I found one that would take me at the weight that I was at, and to be under a 30 BMI, I mean, I was heavier than that in high school, and that was my smallest weight, so the thought of that was really intimidating. But I found a clinic that would help me, and they reassured me constantly that my weight wasn't an issue and that women larger than me get pregnant all the time. And they told me to just eat healthy, eat whole grains, and fruit, and to basically take the drugs they were giving me, show up at my appointments when I needed to, and everything would be fine. But even following their orders, I was working against my own body and working against what I need. So since I started keto, I got pregnant on my own. Surprised. It was a complete surprise. We weren't even trying because you kind of give up after a while.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get to a lower BMI before we pursued more fertility treatments. And I've since found out that, because I did unfortunately lose that pregnancy, but in the time that I was being monitored for it, that facility has now switched to a low-carb recommendation for their clients, because they're finding that science and facts and numbers are saying that this is helping women even without drugs, so it'll obviously help them in conjunction with the treatments.
Yeah. Sometimes people think of fat, it's bad for you, and you know, all this new science is coming out that, you know, it's not actually like that. And you know, if you have problems with insulin, you know, it's kind of a easy equation if you really think about it. But I think a lot of people have a hard time getting over that fact. That's why I was just telling people to watch that documentary Fed Up, because it kind of talks about the way that, you know, insulin works in your body. And I love all this new information that's coming out, and it's starting to kind of change the times about what people are thinking about fats versus carbohydrates and sugars. And you get to see kind of, unfortunately, the bad side about why certain things are suggested for profit over public health, which is a shame. But Denisse, go ahead and let's talk about fertility and PCOS with you.
Okay. And just like her, I actually got pregnant without medication, just having off weight. I also lost a baby, and I told you that I had learned early on that a woman with PCOS should start getting progesterone tested and given progesterone as soon as she's pregnant. Most women, they wait until she's in the second trimester or so. So that to me still is a big deal, but I think there's kind of a complex answer with the fertility and the diet, because weight loss plays a huge part in fertility, period. And like she said, a lot of fertility clinics won't even see you if you are overweight. So until they lose a significant amount of weight, they won't even talk to them about coming in, testing, and putting them on medication. You also asked about a timeline in the questions when you emailed us. I don't believe that there really is a timeline when you do any diet. As far as fertility is concerned, some women can lose 50 pounds and get pregnant. Some women have to lose 80 to 100 pounds in order to get pregnant. But diet is the most important factor. What I learned at the symposium by the fertility doctors there is that, you know, they say that 70% of women with PCOS, or that PCOS factors in to 70% of women being infertile. And what they said was that the amount of women with PCOS versus the amount of women who do not have PCOS, the percentage of infertility was the same.
Really?
So now they're not saying that PCOS is is the biggest factor in it anymore, but diet is probably the most important one.
Okay.
And that to me was a big, you know, a big aha moment, because, and then at that point they said it, you know, it's not a miracle if you lose weight you're going to get pregnant, because if you don't get pregnant, there could be other factors that are making you infertile, but they don't believe it's the PCOS anymore. So at this point, they're like, it's either your age is a factor or something else is a factor.
And can you go ahead and go over that number that you told me earlier about the amount of women who end up with PCOS who end up with successful pregnancies?
90%.
Yeah.
That's
that's quite a lot. And you know, one thing that we kind of talked about when I was in ultrasound school was, you know, when you are doing fertility, you are tracking things on a dime. I mean, you are on top of it. You're testing. They're tracking things, you know, intensely. And a lot of pregnancies, I believe the number is 1 out of 4 ends up not coming, you know, to fruition. And I think a lot of times women don't even know that they've miscarried, whether they have PCOS or not, if it happens really early on, and that's normally when it is. So they actually think the number of women who have had miscarriages is a lot higher than people realize, because it happens before you even realize that you're pregnant in a lot of cases. So that's another interesting thing, that, whether or not you have PCOS, the numbers, undocumented, are kind of shocking. And it's good to know that just because you have PCOS doesn't mean that you're alone in this journey. And there's a lot of people who, do end up having successful pregnancies, and you just have to never give up and keep fighting and push forward. And, I always tell people to get into the communities of the people who are going through the same thing that they are, because you find out so much more information, and you have the support system. And it's just really nice, because people are like so loving and nice, and it's really good to see the humanity come out when people are struggling with similar things. So let's talk about weight loss just a little bit more. Denisse, let's start with you first. How much weight have you lost so far since you started keto?
With keto, surprisingly, I've only lost 21 pounds since November.
That's
good,
though.
But I work out every single day, and I work with a trainer.
Okay.
So I lift weights as well. So I'm totally reshaping my body is what I'm doing. What I learned also at the symposium, which is something my trainer always says, is build the muscle, build the muscle. Don't worry about the cardio. Don't worry about the cardio. So what they were saying at the symposium was the same thing. Women are not lifting enough weight. We're afraid we're going to get bulky. We're afraid we're going to look too muscular. And the truth is that building muscle actually helps insulin resistance. And I believe that that's why, I'm still so successful on this diet, why, I don't stray. At the beginning, it was very difficult. You're giving up. I gave up sugar, actually, 2 months before I started keto. I didn't even know what keto was at the point. I just knew that sugar was not my friend.
Right.
So with the ketogenic diet, I've lost 21 pounds pretty steadily. I go through a time where I don't lose anything, but because I'm working out so much, you look at my pictures and you're like, what do you mean you only lost?
I know, you look incredible.
Or sometimes I gain weight, and when I look at the pictures between me gaining 2-3 pounds, you still see me more slender, and I'm, it just, building the muscle really helps. So for me, at this point, I'm not too worried about the number anymore, because I was obsessed with it, and I would keep thinking that I was doing something wrong.
Right.
And I wasn't the whole time. It's because I'm working out. I work out at least 4 or 5 times a week. And I do it an hour at a time. And then I went with my trainer, we're doing like extensive boot camp. So I'm working my full body. The transformation I'm seeing, though, excites me, because I didn't know I had the ability to do this with my body. And this diet is helping me, because it's actually helping the midsection, which was always my main concern anyway. And I just feel better. And I'm glad that I can talk about it, because, I have a Facebook page that I made very public, and I started it for accountability. To me, it was like, if I go out there and I say I'm doing this, everybody's going to watch me. And, I have over 500 followers as of today, and, I have women on Instagram with PCOS who are actually watching, and they're like, I didn't know, you give me hope. And it gives me the chills even saying that, because I didn't know I had hope. I had to discover that I did. And I had to push through all the boundaries and what everybody thinks they know about PCOS, and just figure it out. Because this is a lifestyle change. You can't do the keto diet and have PCOS and decide you're going to do it until you lose weight. You have to do it for the rest of your life, because insulin resistance, as soon as you start eating sugar again or carbs again, it's gonna flare up again, and you're gonna gain weight again. And the second time through, as it's my understanding, it's not so easy to be keto adapted after you've already gone back to a high carb diet.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that it's important, not just for women with PCOS, but anybody who does this, is to make it a lifestyle change and embrace it, because you can eat so much food anyway. I don't feel deprived at all.
Yeah.
And it's all good for us. It's extremely healthy. We see progress. Our bodies are better. Cholesterol's are better. Diabetics feel better. insulin resistance is better, hirsutism, like there's just a whole bunch of things. So I'm excited. I'm excited that I learned about it and that I've been able to adapt to it enough, and I just keep going with it. So.
Yeah. One good thing about lifting weights, I remember when I went to the gym a while ago, because that's all I used to do is hit the gym, and then I would try to do low fat, and I was never losing any weight. And they always talked about when you build up that muscle, you have the resting metabolism where your body is like burning calories when you're not even doing anything. And I'm like, sign me up for that. That's pretty good, you know. So I definitely agree with you on that. Carisa, you want to talk about your weight loss with keto?
Absolutely. It's my favorite subject these days. It really is. I feel so passionately about it that my husband, my sister's husband, my mother-in-law, these people are all doing this now, and they all feel so much better. And I'm just leading by example. I'm not running around and trying to force it down their throats, but they're just seeing how much better I feel.
Yeah.
I decided this was kind of a last-ditch effort, to be honest. It was my last try. And I thought, if this doesn't work, I'm just giving up, and I'm just going to be a blob forever, and I don't care, because I had a terrible attitude about everything. I was overeating because I was depressed, and when I switched to keto, I kind of decided I was going to do it pretty leniently. So I've been doing what is known as lazy keto, and I think that that's good for people who have emotional eating problems or who have overeating problems, or who are just really not used to this type of, if this isn't, for some people, this is kind of how they already eat. They just need to tweak a few things. For me, it was kind of a complete overhaul. So I only counted carbs and really didn't pay attention to calories or anything else. I was just making sure it fit in the criteria, and the weight came off really quickly. They do say that happens at first, especially water weight. The first couple of months, it was starting to feel almost scary how good it was working. And there's something to be said for that when you have unexpected success and it happens so well, sometimes you want to sabotage yourself. You do these strange things. And I kept feeling like, this is too good to be true. I finally kind of accepted it and learned that now that I've lost 40 pounds, a little over 40 pounds. It's fluctuated a little bit since the miscarriage and all that. But right now I'm at about 44 pounds lost, and I basically look at it like now I'm onto my next stepping stone, where I'm going to have to be a little bit more restrictive, a little bit more careful, and expand things a little bit more and try new things. And I am trying so hard to like avocado. I don't like it. I've never liked it, but it's so good for you, and it's one of the best foods on keto to eat. So I'm just trying to make sure I try different things, don't get bored with it, because this is my life now, and I am totally okay with that. I feel so much better. Everyday tasks don't bother me. I used to get upset about having to do laundry. It's because I was physically exhausted just to bring the clothes to the washing machine.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing that I'm not in that prison anymore that I created for myself, because whether I was trying to do well or not trying to do well, all of those things, because of my limited knowledge of what PCOS was, all of those things were hurting me. So it's nice to know that every time I put something in my mouth now, it's helping me, and it's going towards a better future and a better body and better health. Because regardless of whether or not I overcome infertility, I want to be the best physically I can be and feel proud of myself for not letting that completely destroy me. So I think that for women who at least have, say, 20 pounds to lose, I have about 120 pounds to lose. So I look at women who are in that position, and I think sometimes that's the hardest way to do it. Sometimes when you've got over 100 pounds to lose, you really get motivated. And if you don't have as much to do, you can kind of feel like, oh, I don't have, I'll lose it when I need to lose it. So I can respect that. I can totally respect that. So don't look at women like me who have accomplished what might seem like, well, that's twice as much of what I need to do. It's once you've lost the first 5 pounds on keto, you'll realize that it's a completely different 5 pounds than any other 5 pounds you've lost before, because of the inflammation factor, because of all of the other little bits of the symptoms that your body is pulling together to create who you are, 5 pounds lost on keto feels like 10 pounds lost, in all honesty.
Totally agree.
Worth it.
Carisa, can you talk about really quick how keto works with the insulin resistance of PCOS?
Well, from what my understanding is that when you have insulin resistance through PCOS specifically, you are more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, and your body is exhausted already before you even get to that point, and you're so much more likely to get sick. And when I discovered that was something that I was doing incorrectly all that time, it kind of scared me. It kind of made me feel surprised and glad that my body had accepted things up until that point and, kept me from getting to there. But I still have that risk factor, and I always will for the rest of my life. So eating a ketogenic diet and eating low carbohydrates, for people who don't, who haven't researched it or don't know, carbohydrates turn into sugar in the body, basically. And so you're feeding your body the very thing that it can't process, and that it's going to create, this is my limited knowledge of it, but you end up creating cortisol, which makes you gain weight around your stomach. And that's where most people who have insulin resistance have, it's called like an apple-shaped body. They have that excess weight there. And what's nice is when you start eating a ketogenic diet, it starts to shrink that area because you're no longer adding to it, because once you eat something, it doesn't pack on top of what you already have. So it's kind of, it's a slow process to go backwards, but you're not adding to that risk factor any longer.
Yeah. So basically, I think the last thing that I wanted to just say, and then you guys can put in any last minute stuff that you want to, is, this is something that affects between 1 and 10, and it can happen in girls as young as 11 years old. I was reading about it. Usually happens around the time, the diagnoses start coming in when people are starting their periods and things like that. And, it's definitely good to do your research and look into things and, make sure that you are in touch with your doctors and all the different testing that they're having now. Ultrasound is definitely not the only way of testing for this, and it's actually recommended that it's not, because like Carisa said, her ultrasounds look normal. So anything you guys want to close with?
I will. I believe that the younger you are, the more beneficial it is to start following a specific diet plan in regards to PCOS and the low carb one. Obviously, we've mentioned all the benefits of it. I think about me at 20 and then I'm now 36. And that's 16 years of more damage I did to my body that I probably would not have made had I known how to care for myself 20 years ago. And PCOS, it's ever changing research, everything's always changing. They don't really know where it comes from either. So it's just one of those things where I think that where we are now, we can help a lot more young women in regards to the symptoms that they have. They do say that you should always check for your insulin and testosterone levels before they even diagnose you with it. So, be aware of that, ladies. Just always make sure that you ask for the right test. And I think that's it. I think if we can heal our bodies, we can't cure PCOS, but we can definitely heal our bodies from it, and it's very manageable when you do. So if we can learn to be in a place where we can manage the symptoms with less medication, then I think that we will overall be a lot more healthier. And I think that a lot of women might actually find that even the infertility issues could improve for them. Because I know that out of all the Facebook pages or any feeds that I'm on with PCOS and with women with PCOS, the depression comes more from the infertility than anything else. Some women are okay with not having kids. The women who cannot have kids are usually the ones who really want them. So, just keep that in mind, that your lifestyle change could possibly be that one thing that can help you to actually start your family and feel that completeness that you're looking for. And I think that's it. I want to just say thank you for even having us here today. I think it was very effective. It's important for us to get the word out by any means necessary. And I'm really grateful that you reached out and we've been able to communicate about this. And I look forward to moving forward, watching both of you guys on your YouTube. And that's exciting to me. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Carisa, anything you want to say?
I think that the most important message that I have for anyone who's just starting to learn about this or look into it is don't let anyone tell you that it's not true. Mm-hmm. Don't let anyone tell you that you'll be infertile forever, that you'll be fat forever. Don't even let your doctor tell you that you're going to have high cholesterol and you're just going to die, because there are doctors who are stubborn. I am lucky. I'm in a minority, I think, to have a doctor who has been accepting of it, and she's trying to learn along with me. Mm-hmm. But I think that when it comes down to being healthy and happy, you have to be your own advocate. You have to try it for yourself, and you have to say, I'm not going to let anybody tell me I can't do it. There are women who have a family history, and I know they've been told by their mothers, we're all just big, and just adopt, and you're fine, eat some cake. And don't let anyone decide for you who you're going to be, because when it comes down to it, you have to look yourself in the mirror and be okay with the choices that you're making. And PCOS is not a death sentence. There's no reason to find out that you have it and lay down and die. You can fight this, and keto will make you feel so alive and so good, and it'll make you feel because like you said, you can't cure it, but you sure can kick its butt.
Yeah. And you guys are perfect proofs of this. You guys seriously inspire me all the time. I know I don't personally have PCOS, but it's just incredible to see people actually just taking control and, looking outside the box of our traditional standard diet. And if you look at our traditional standard diet, obesity is rising like crazy. So obviously, we're doing something wrong here, and it's scary. Like I mentioned earlier with that documentary, Fed Up, I'm scared for the future generations, especially for the people with PCOS, because if we keep on this track, if you're already insulin resistant and then you're loading your body up and insulin is spiking, you're just in this vicious cycle. So if you have PCOS and you're watching this, look into keto and, reach out. I'm going to link Denisse and Carisa's Instagrams below, and Carisa's YouTube channel as well. We got to talk to Denisse into getting into YouTube.
You guys have actually inspired me to try this.
Yeah, it's a little weird talking to a camera at first, but it's really rewarding because, the more we share, the more we realize that we all have so much in common. And it's huge. Why not? If you help one person, it's humbling, So thank you, ladies, so much for your time. I look forward to seeing you guys' progress, continued on. And if you guys have any questions, link below. And I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.